So after the last video, we should be at this tag right here, v2-php files. So if at any time you get confused or you didn't quite see all the changes, you can always go back to the tagged version in the GitHub repo, and then from there you can see the incremental changes. As an example, this version here, if you come down, you can click here and then you'll see all the changes that I made for that version. And we did all these the last time together. So we changed the nav in all three of the files. And then we also renamed it from about.html to about.php. Same thing with the index and same thing with the upload. That's all the changes we made the last time. Our goal now is to get to layout files. So we'll talk about that in this video. There is a principle as a developer, and it's called DRY. D-R-Y, and it's an acronym that stands for do not repeat yourself. Anytime that you see repeated code, doesn't matter if it's in your HTML, your JavaScript, or your PHP files, it generally is not a good thing. And we saw this the last time. When we made changes to these three files, the navigation existed in all three of these files. So I had to come in and change the links in all three files. I made the same changes 3 times because that's how many pages I have. Imagine now I had 10 pages. And we want to get away from that. So we want to refactor this common code into something that's going to become our layout eventually. But all of these individual pieces, just think about them as like little parcel pages, and we're going to be able to pull them in and use them. So let's go ahead and try that. So to get us set up here, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new directory called views. Inside of views, I'm going to create another directory here called layout. So I just added 2 new directories, views and layout. Inside my layout, that's where all these parcels are going to go. That's where our layout will eventually live. So let's tackle this nav. It exists in all 3 places. So to create a layout for the nav, what I'm going to do is create a new file. And we're going to follow a little bit of a convention here. If it's a partial, I like to name things starting with an underscore. So this is an underscore nav, and you could just call this .php. I also like to indicate what this is. This is in my views directory, so it's really a partial view. So I'm going to name this .view.php. Naming things is really important. It just helps you keep your code clear and understandable, so anybody who comes into your code can see clearly that this is a view. So I'm going to go ahead and name that file that. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to grab all of this code that's in this nav. So it's all collapsed down. I think I can copy and paste it this way. I'm going to drop it in here, expand it out just to make sure that everything's here. So I have taken all of that nav code and I've placed it in there. I don't need it in here anymore, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete it from there. Now obviously if I refresh this page at this point, that top nav will disappear and it's gone. And I want to bring it back. So here's where I can start to add some dynamic PHP tags. So I'm going to start a PHP tag. I open it up like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to require this file. And what this require command does, you can think of it almost as copying and pasting. It's going to inline the content from that page right where this command is. So it's going to replace this command, copy and paste that, and put it into this file. So it's almost as if it was still here, but it's in its own place for now. Now this is a relative path relative to where this file is. So this file is in my public directory. So it's right here inside this. To get to here, I want to go back one. So .. slash, then I want to go into views /layout / my nav.view.php file. And I'm going to close that PHP tag. So now the interpreter, when it sees this PHP, it's going to grab the content from that file. It's going to insert it and replace this right here. So if I refresh, I should get back to where I was before, and I had that nav bar. And now you can see the nav at the top. We're going to do that same thing for all 3 of these files. So I'm going to take this, delete the nav. I'm going to add my require statement just like that. So it's in the upload, and we're going to do the same thing for the about page. Delete the nav, and I'm going to require the nav. So when I go back and forth, we're breaking stuff, but sometimes you have to break things to build it back up. One of the things that we broke here is this little pill. You can see some outlining up here. I make this a little bigger like that, so you can see that little outline. Now when I come to the different pages, that outline doesn't follow the active page anymore. So the one that's active doesn't show that. We'll be fixing that in future videos, but for now, We are just tearing this thing apart into different partials. So I got my nav partial. The other thing that's common to every single page is, I'm going to go ahead and close that partial out, is this whole top section. This is the page header. So every single page has a page header up there at the top. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to create a new partial. And we're going to call this pagehead.view.php. And again, it's in my layout directory. So I paste that page head in there. And then I go back to every single page, and I'm going to replace that with a require statement. And then when I save it, you can see everything indented a little bit. That's my IDE, which is PHP Storm auto formatting for me a little bit. But this now is a partial that's being loaded in this page. And I can replace all of that code, that same code. It's from here up in the upload page, and the same code from here up in the about page. So now I want to refresh the about page. Nothing should change. It should look the same. Oops, and I made a mistake on all of the naming here. It's .view, isn't it? So let me just go through and update this one more time, the .view. And I should follow the hint from my IDE. If you look at the index, it's giving me that little underscore squiggly right there saying that file does not exist. So now, if I refresh this, I should get back to where I was before. Here's another common section. This is that page header section right there. So let's go ahead. We're going to create a new partial. We're going to call it header.view.php. That code, we'll drop it in here. We'll just paste it in. Now I can go through and I will just copy and paste this, change the file from nav to header. Make sure the squigglies aren't there. Save that, get rid of that. That page header is on my upload page, and it's also it's right here, it's in my about page. In fact, now that I look at it, I think every page has a main, and I'm just going to squeeze that into my page header. So right here, that initial main tag, I can remove it from all of these pages. So as I'm refactoring this, I'm just looking for ways that I can remove duplication from these pages, and squeezing the opening main tag into the header is another way to do it. So I'm going to refresh. Nothing should change over here. Now, if I come down to the very bottom, all of this code at the very bottom is the page foot or page footer down here. So I'm going to create a new partial called pagefoot.view.php. We're going to drop in that code. And you don't have to worry about the indentation. It's more of a visual thing for us to kind of see. The IDE will do its best to try to fix that stuff, but grab a thing and we're going to just change this to page foot. And we'll put that on all three of these pages. So grab all of this code. I guess I messed that up before. So grab this code right here, replace that. Here's the about page. So all of this is going to go away. Refresh, should work. Upload, about, photos. All right. So now that little bit of work, I have significantly improved the maintainability of these three pages just by taking out the common code. Now, I would do just a little thing to prettify this and make it a little easier to read. Get it to look like maybe that on every page. So I have some spacing. So these pages have gotten significantly shorter. All right, so that's it for this video. We've taken another incremental step in our path here. We've taken that common code that's in our HTML files, we've refactored it into these partials, and we've started this concept of a layout. Eventually this is going to mature a little bit more. So we did break something again. We talked about breaking it. We broke it so we can build it back up again, but we broke this nav header so that little darkened area does not follow the active page anymore. But we'll fix that in a future video, so we'll see you next time.